Well, we're live now. Okay. Is there anybody there? What's that? What? Okay. I don't think there's anybody watching. Oh, there's one person. So I think you're the only one watching. What's that? Oh, well, we got a few people out there. Go ahead and introduce yourself if you're there. Tonight I'm trying something new. I've got StreamYard hooked up here so that I can play around with it just a little bit. I'd like to use it Saturday night. I've got a couple of things planned for it, so I'm going to mess around with it a little bit, and if you're in the live, say hello. One of the things that I'm going to talk about today is diatomaceous earth. It's something I haven't dealt with, and I was hoping. Vineyard Chicks, good evening. Welcome to the live. I think it's just you and I for right now. I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody else on. But I'm going to be playing with StreamYard a little bit tonight, see if I can get it figured out so I can use it Saturday. But if anyone watching this or watching the replay of it has worked with diatomaceous earth at all, I'd like some information on it. I understand you can put it down and it'll kill off a lot of insects. I understand that it is organic, and I'm just looking for additional information if there's any. Oh, there's 5 people. Okay, well, that's good. Mama Goose says hi. She is following on her phone, so I don't think she can type into the comments, but she can read them, and so she said hi. I'm going to play with these buttons down here for just a second. I guess it won't do anything right now. Okay. I didn't imagine it would because nobody's up here, but so what I understand is that diatomaceous earth is a silicon product that can be spread as a dust on the soil, and insects that chew on leaves will chew on it. It will absorb the moisture in their bodies and cut their intestines slightly to take them out. Hello, Homestead Aquarius. Welcome to the live. We're just playing around tonight, I think. I don't have a lot planned as far as I didn't put together any kind of a teaching or anything like that. We've been pretty busy. The wind's been fairly bad out here. I made a video this morning. I'm going to have to voice over the entire video because there's too much wind. But and my hoop house, believe it or not, is ready to get the poly on it. We just have to have a nice calm day when I can get out and put the poly on it. So with that in mind, I'm going to move these guys out. Oops, out of here. Larry Gandy, welcome to the live. Yeah, we did get some rain. We got about, last Saturday we got about 5 minutes of rain. And then we got some rain on Sunday. Actually, I went out Monday to do some weeding in the onions, and there was some mud. So that was good. And then today we got just enough rain that I had to turn on my windshield wipers. I was real excited. The clouds were dark and looked like we were going to get quite a bit of rain, and it ended. So yeah, we're still at a pretty big deficit for rain. The stuff I've got in the hoop house is doing fairly well because I hand water all of that. The stuff in the field, I've got to come up with a little bit better way of timing the drip tape and running that because I'm not getting real even irrigation. So the Vineyard Chick says Sunday night we had a tornado warning, spooked poor Bunky. Yeah, we had a tornado touchdown. What night was that? What night was the tornado?
This past weekend.
Yeah, I think it was Sunday night or Monday. Just about 35, 40 minutes to the south of us, there were 150 or 160 homes that were badly damaged, some of them completely destroyed. 5 people were injured. I mean, it's amazing that we're saying only 5 people were injured. They think it was an F3. Yeah, and I don't really know what those things mean. We live in an area that gets quite a few tornadoes. We've been hit twice by not tornadoes, but by straight line winds. But when you get hit by 120-mile-an-hour straight line wind, it does a lot of damage. We lost a couple of big tree branches, and we lost the roof on the house, and one of the barns got severely damaged by the wind. Fortunately, the barn that got hurt was one that had insurance on it, so that's always a plus. So Homestead Aquarius says diatomaceous earth gets worked in between their joints into their lungs too. It is basically like glass, nasty stuff on all bugs and things that breathe it in. I watched a video of a guy talking about how cruel diatomaceous earth was to insects, and I just got to thinking, is that something I should be worried about? I mean, the comfort of a potato bug? I don't really think so. And then the Vineyard Chicks said we use diatomaceous earth on our goats, and I thought you meant the mama goat wants to use the garden version in the garden. Now, when you use it on the goats, is that for fleas and ticks and that kind of thing? Because that would make a lot of sense. I used to use diatomaceous earth as a fish filter. I had a diatom filter on one of my fish tanks, and I think what we purchased for the fish tank, about a cup full of diatomaceous, well, no, it's more than that. Probably a pound of diatomaceous earth was about $20. So when I heard about people using DE on gardens, I thought, man, that's just impractical. Oh, for lice, yeah, that makes sense. And then I found out that you can get food grade diatomaceous earth, and it's not terribly expensive. I don't remember what it was. I think it was like 10 pounds for $6 or something. But it would still be very expensive for me to use on my potatoes. And I don't know, I imagine it would kill the potato bugs, but I haven't found anything. I don't find anything on it. All right, Homestead Aquarius says potato bugs don't need any help, but the DT gets all insects, good and bad, so folks need to keep it in mind. Worms as well. Yeah, I don't doubt that, because if it's going to dehydrate and tear up the intestines and get into all the little places where it shouldn't. I did read where they said that earthworms were kind of immune to it because they have a slime that protects them. But if the idea of the DE is to absorb some of that moisture, it would turn the slime into a peanut butter's consistency, and that would probably take them out as well. So one of the things, those of you who are coming in late, a little later here, I put up StreamYard today. It has taken care of my microphone problem that I've been having issues with every week. So I think I'll continue to use StreamYard for that reason. But also this Saturday, I'd like to be able to bring a couple of people up onto the platform. So I want to learn how to use it and build my confidence. I'm going to put the link out there, or at least I'm going to try to, and see if we can bring somebody up and see how that works. So if you'd like to come up, I'm going to put the link out there. Oh, that didn't work. All right, let me try it one more time. Okay.
It's the girls down.
There we go. So there's the link. If somebody wants to come up for a minute, you don't have to stay long, or you can if you want. But I just want to see how this works. This Saturday, I'm going to be giving a message, or giving us a talk on the Old Testament law and how it applies to New Testament Christians. And I've spent quite a bit of time preparing for this. It's not something it's not something I feel I can give a really complete talk on, but I'd like to at least give a bit of a try on it. So
Ask Homestead Aquarius, he said he puts a small amount in sand and dirt for his quails. You use that for chickens.
yeah, you could. I've seen that where you can put it down. Homestead Aquarius, you're mentioning about the for the quail. You could do that with chickens as well. You'd probably want to put it in an area where they're going to dust, where they're going to get into the ground and dust. But yeah. The other thing that I've read, but boy, you'd need an awful lot of diatomaceous earth for this to work. They talk about, the Vineyard Chick said that they use it for their chickens. So someone was saying that diatomaceous earth is also, when you spread it on the garden, it will help to hold moisture. But boy, you'd have to put an awful lot down to make any kind of a difference. And so a random thought that just came to me, this year I planted almost everything in a mixture of peat moss and I can't think of the little white pieces that we put in there. Perlite, thank you, Mama Goose. So I mixed perlite, and then as I progressed on a little bit, I also added some vermiculite to that to hold more moisture. But towards the end of our seedling season, we used some coconut coir, and I am going to investigate getting larger amounts of coconut coir to see how expensive that is, buying it in somewhat of bulk, because we planted some peppers, or Mama Goose planted some peppers and coconut coir, and they held moisture much, much better. Now, peppers I don't really have a problem with, but I have a problem with tomatoes. Once I put them out in the hoop house, before we plant them in the ground, they tend to dry out really quickly. So, I'm going to investigate Coconut Choir for that. But I have to throw out a little shout out and a thank you. Yesterday, and I'm not sure how much of the crew is involved. I think all of them, but Trey and KK and Bunky from the Vineyard Chicks helped me out with my email. I had some problems there, and so I appreciate that. I just wanted to thank you. All right, I'm going to see if I can bring Homestead Aquarius up. Have I got you up there? I see your name and
hey, you got me, Chief.
your
Johnny, how are you?
signature blank screen. There you go. There's Spalding. No, not Spalding.
Spalding.
Wilson.
No, Wilson. There you go.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
You said I normally wouldn't just hop up, but man needs some help testing out the system. So I'm gonna charge in there and give you a hand.
Well, I appreciate it. I feel badly. I have not been. I thought about this morning as I was driving to work. I have not been to many channels recently because my business got real busy, and then the gardening season this year is crazy. So I've got to get over to your channel, Homestead, and take a look at what you've got going on. How's the garden?
I don't have much of a garden, Chicken Johnny. I don't.
Yeah.
And I've even thought about making a video about that. I've got a few containers, and I'm going to get some hot loving stuff in the ground and just see. Honestly, ever since last spring that we started up Shed Wars and all of this, and I started building my channel, a lot of my work in the garden went away, for being YouTube stupid, basically. Just spending too much time out there. And I have thought about making a video, but yeah, don't have a whole lot right now. I've got a overwintered pepper that's doing pretty good. And believe it or not, I'm about to start some peppers. Even though it's a little bit late, we'll start some from seed because I do plan on gardening all the way into the fall and over winter as well in a greenhouse.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that it's too late for you to start peppers. For me, if I were to start planting peppers now, I'd probably start getting peppers off of them by August. But I've actually planted transplants this morning, some different peppers, and then my grocery store peppers are finally big enough that I'm going to plant them in the field probably tomorrow. But,
yeah.
My favorite Homestead Aquarius video, it was early on when I found your channel. I was watching, and you were out on the road, and you found roadkill on the side of the road. You remember what that was?
Yes, I do.
Did you do anything with that dresser?
The carcass is still there. I moved it, and it's laying there where it is. I plan on doing a funeral for it one day.
There you
go. But I look at it every day. I've got to get the glass out of it and do something with that. But we're gonna have a funeral for it. Yeah. Dispose of the body properly.
I enjoyed that video. And then the other one was when you were down by the rocks. And I don't remember what the video was, but it reminded me, I had an aunt and uncle who lived in, they lived in the Smoky Mountains. So North Carolina, would that be?
Yeah.
And when I was a little kid, we were out by a river with rocks just like that, and we were picking up geodes and breaking them open and seeing all of the minerals inside of them. And I'd like to find a river like that someday again, but I suppose a lot of that's been picked over, huh?
Well, the Smokies has some incredible geology up in there. North Carolina, especially up there around Cherokee. Oh, there's a few. I can't think of some of the small mining areas, but they have some incredible gemstone stuff up there: rubies, emeralds, sapphires, all of that stuff.
Wow.
Great geology up in there, even gold. But that's one of my favorite places too. Is North Carolina.
Hey, Larry, go ahead and come on up. I'll put the link out again. Joe Serrano, welcome to the live.
Joe Serrano, all the way from Mexico, central Mexico.
Central Mexico. Did I send that out there? Yeah. Yeah, so things are a little different this year than they were last year on Shed Wars, that's for sure.
Yeah, we've weathered an awful lot of storms, and it, you know how it is.
Yeah.
You're working on something, and there's issues always coming up, and always something, as they say.
Yeah.
But we're gonna press on through all of it and see what shakes out as we go. There ain't a whole lot to say, just keep going.
Yeah. Hey, J&L Ministries, welcome to the live. We're just chatting today. I'm trying to figure out how to use StreamYard, and normally I'd be talking about the garden. We did a little garden talk, but welcome to the live.
Yeah, you're talking about getting around to see everybody right now for gardening and homesteading. This is, game on. Everybody's doing their thing. It ain't wintertime anymore. Everybody's sitting in there eating chili and watching live streams and everybody's videos and having fun and thinking about when the warm weather's going to get here. Well, now it's go time,
Yeah.
Especially if they planted zucchini. Especially if they planted zucchini.
Oh, yeah. I found it funny that in the Southern Hemisphere, they did the largest zucchini challenge. I'm pretty sure I can win that one. We always end up with about a 2-foot zucchini because we miss it and it just grows and grows. I've got 15 zucchini plants right now that are about ready to go, and then I've seeded some more so that when those they don't seem to stay very long for us. I get probably 3 or 4 weeks of harvesting off of them, and then they seem to get blight.
Yeah.
So I just plant new ones behind, and everybody says don't plant them in the same spot because the blight is just gonna follow, but it doesn't seem to. It seems like the new ones stay.
Does the blight affect them? Is the same blight that would affect tomatoes or potatoes?
Yeah. Well, maybe not the potatoes, but I've never had blight on the potatoes, but yeah, we'll get it on tomatoes. It's more powdery mildew is what we get on the zucchinis. The more I'm thinking about it, I plant them too close together just because that's when we're planting them, the seeds just go out, and I just never thin things. So, but yeah, I would think that the blight, if it's going to hit the tomato, it's going to hit the potato because they're both nightshades.
That's what I always figure.
Yeah.
But yeah, zucchini though, if somebody wants to plant something that's a very giving plant, I mean, that's a great survival crop right there. That sweet potatoes and so many other things, but it's zucchini's just heavy producers, and most of the time people consider it a curse. They're like, oh, what am I going to do with these zucchini? And they're like giving them away. So remember, I don't know if you've seen it or not. Have you seen the Gladiator 6 challenge? That's about sharing food.
I don't think I have. Welcome, Larry. Andy, welcome to the stream.
Welcome. Welcome. How are you doing? I was just going to participate with it since you need some guinea pigs. I'm pretty good at being a guinea pig for a minute, so I just the lawnmower, it has rained here every day, and the honey flow's on. The bees are really struggling, trying to gather nectar because it keeps washing the blooms out. So
Sure. Hey, Larry, do you know Robert from Homestead Aquarius?
I don't hardly know anybody since I'm so new to YouTube.
Yeah,
Well, we have not met, but if you're keeping bees, you're a good man already.
I was
That's
going to
good.
say, yeah.
Yeah.
Beekeepers are our heroes.
We are trying our best to figure out how to be as close to chemical free as possible.
Yeah.
I read an article today that the average is for the major beekeepers that reported 32% loss every year. And that's devastating. If you spend all your resources trying to rebuild back your colonies, making all your splits, just to sustain your numbers, then it's hard to sell nukes and make a profit. It's kind of frustrating.
You know,
What part
Larry,
of the country are you in?
I'm sorry?
What part of the country are you in, Larry?
I'm in the middle of Mississippi, but this was a nationwide survey.
Mm-hmm.
we have cranberry farmers up just several miles north of us, and they have large hives. And believe it or not, they pack those hives onto semis and send them out to Southern California for the winter. And I guess they pollinate out there, and then they bring them back for the summer. And when you see those semis packed up, it's pretty impressive. They pile the hives on, and then they put like a top piece, strap it down, but there's bees flying all over the place when they do that. I mean, they close off the little gates and everything like that on the beehive, but I guess some of the bees didn't get in. I don't think they keep up all the way to, California or Washington or wherever they're going, but.
No, Johnny, they load them at night. They have
Oh, okay.
forklifts, and they use a yellow light on them so they can see how to load them. They load them and tarp them at night. They don't really close each individual hive because there's several hundred on that 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
And cover them with that net, and some of them get on the outside and they'll cling there trying to get back to their colony. And every time they stop at a red light, if they let go of that net, then when they take off, they start flying behind it trying to catch up with them. So
I don't want to be behind one of them when they flip.
no, I haul mine down to the blueberry fields starting in February, and then I bring them back in late March or April. I bring them back to the watermelon fields and start watermelon pollination. So we move ours about 70 miles from home and back. It's a pretty daunting task because all I have is a 1 ton, and with that, pulling a bobcat and then trying to get them into the field, I can get about 40 colonies to a load, and it takes me 5-6 loads to get them all positioned and then have to haul them back. And of course, there's always plowed dirt involved, and it rains every time I need to get them in the field before the bloom. It rains the night before I try to go in there. So
Now, how many hives do you have?
I don't know. We're putting on supers right now. We pick up anywhere from 2 to 4 hives every trip, but somewhere probably between 300 and 400 colonies.
Wow. I about 9 years ago, I had bees here on the property. They weren't mine. I had a friend who put them here because our fields then were feeding their bees, and we wanted them for the pollination. But on 4th of July, we were having about 50 people over here for a 4th of July party, and our bees swarmed. And I just stood in the middle of that swarm with my hands up, and I've got a video somewhere of that. Didn't get bit. I mean, they didn't want anything to do with me. They were just flying by. But then I got concerned because we were gonna have a bunch of little kids there and everything, and I didn't want people to leave because we got these bees swarming in the back. So a friend of mine came over and he went over and he flicked the queen that had gone to the mulberry tree. He flicked that off into a can, set the, not into a can, he put it into a hive. And then he waited and all of those bees went into that hive, closed it up. And I think it took maybe 20, 30 minutes, you know, once he got the queen.
Right. Most people don't understand a swarm is one of the most gentlest environments you'll be in, because the bees actually gorge themselves with honey because they know where they're going. They have to have honey because the young bees, when they eat honey, they secrete the wax out from under their belly. And it's that wax that they make their comb with. So all these bees are, it's kind of like eating a bunch of chocolate, just kind of mellow out. Well, it's the same way with them. They're all gorged with honey, and that's why you may have even smelt that inside that middle of that swarm. You may have smelt some of that aroma
Sure.
from them being gorged.
Now, I was going to ask you something and I lost my train of thought. Oh, when you put your supers on, have you got wax already in them, or do you let the bees build the wax?
We use the ones with the hard plastic in the center, and then we melt our cappings from last year. We save them and we melt them, and we take a sponge roller and we roll a little bit of extra fresh wax on them. And when the honey flow starts, they'll jump on it and build it. They'll actually, it's a light coat on it anyway. You can just put the straight frames on there with the light coat that comes with them from the factory.
Yeah.
And they pull it. But if you put them a little bit extra on there, that they can't stand it. Those young bees would jump in there and they'll make it happen for you.
Well,
Is that the ones that's got the cells already built into the plastic, the little starter ridges?
Yes, the starter ridges. I don't use the full blown plastic. I've seen some of those out there. I've never tried anything like that. It's just got the imprint of a comb on it. And
Yeah,
then
just a little start to give them that. Yeah.
up the edges, and they know exactly what it's for.
Yeah. Well, Johnny, I'm going to get down and fix me some supper and let y'all just do your thing up here, and I'll be lurking for the rest of the time. Larry, it's nice to meet you. You're from Mississippi. I'm over here in North Alabama,
Okay.
North-ish Alabama. So we're kind of neighbors. And so you're a watermelon farmer, right?
I am not. I am a beekeeper.
Okay, beekeeper. Okay. All right. So I didn't know whether you did both of them or not.
No, I pollinate crops. I've got a small garden, but the bees, with that many bees, it's all I can do to stay up, keep my head above water. So I'm trying to figure out how to transition and have, garden and try to do some homestead and to go along with it. I've got a pretty good bartering tool. I can swap, for veggies, but I got to have somebody besides my farmers that's got vegetables. And I've been thinking about that is, how do you transition to be self-sufficient when you're so busy at one critical? I mean, the bees are critical. We've got to have them, and I got to figure out how to keep them alive.
Well, you do it a little at a time whenever you have to. You just make steady progress. I mean, I'm a long way from that, and the three of us has got plenty of gray hair, it's a long way.
speak for yourself. I don't know that I have plenty.
So many steps we can take, but I need to speak for myself, but I'm going to get off of here and let y'all do some talking. I love to hear about some beekeeping. I'm going to eat me some supper before it gets too late. Y'all be good. I'm going to come find you, Larry.
Good to meet you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Johnny, for having me up here, buddy.
I appreciate you coming up. Freehandly Made, welcome to the live. I thought I saw someone else come up that I hadn't seen.
I seen Jim with J&L.
Yeah, J&L, I did see them earlier, said hi. This is a little different with the StreamYard than it is with the YouTube. You can read the chat a lot better. I like that.
I don't see any chat at all.
Yeah, I think when you're a guest, you can't read the chat.
Right.
We're just going to keep you in the dark, Larry.
Well, I just wanted to help you out. Like I say, I'll jump off here and let some of your others come up and.
Oh,
and
no,
visit.
that's all right. You hang here. I got some questions for you.
Okay.
So are you able to lease out your bees, or is it just a, something you do, helps you, helps them?
I rent them,
Yeah.
and it
That's,
helps
the-
pay for the more equipment and the diesel to go back and forth and see to them. So
especially now.
absolutely.
I just went and bought diesel now. If I buy it in Illinois, it costs me 35 cents a gallon more than if I drive an extra 2 miles and go into Wisconsin and buy it. And then if I drive an extra 20 miles, I can get up to where I can buy off-road diesel, and that saves another quarter. So, but unfortunately, a lot of the gas stations in Wisconsin won't let you spend more than $100.
Wow.
It doesn't make any sense, but so you're in Mississippi.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I,
About center part of the state.
I don't believe I've ever been in Mississippi. I think that's one of the
All right, there's a question. that
few
they asked.
places I haven't been in. Okay, someone asked a question. Okay, so Freehandly Maid said, so people rent your bees to pollinate their crops.
Yes.
Is that correct? So
Yes.
how does that work then? You have a prearranged agreement with them, or you solicit them, or they solicit you, or?
They normally call me because there's not a lot of people that have a large quantity of bees that's willing to rent them. Most people want to just put them out and just make honey. But I kind of went after the pollination because I was working a day job, and I'm having to do this on nights and weekends, so
Sure.
it worked out for me. So we just went after that market. And the watermelons, I am in Smith County, which is the watermelon capital of the world. And there's a lot of big watermelon farmers up here, and I have a couple of them that rent from me.
Wow.
And it's hot work, and it's kind of tough because of the time of year, and then going back around trying to go through a watermelon field. They irrigate their fields with wells, and they have these
Yeah.
big blue pipes running across the rows, and you try to figure out how to cross them. And just about every year I get on one of them just right, and the well turns on and it blows out one of his lines, and I have to call him and say, I'm sorry, but you got to come check your well. So but,
I have a couple of those big blue lines that have blown out on me. Mine aren't as big, but you can take an awful lot of field away in a short order if you're not careful.
Okay.
When I was kind of interested in keeping bees, I realized that it was a big job. It wasn't something for the faint of heart. But when I originally looked into it, I took a class. We drove about 100 miles to a beekeeping organization, and they were given a class, and they were talking about that not only is the honey valuable, but the actual pollen. They were talking about putting brushes or something on the entrance to the hive that would knock the pollen off, and then they sell that to perfume companies.
well,
Or
the
such
pollen,
thing.
yeah, the pollen is actually valuable. A lot of people take it because of allergies. It comes out in a little pellet on their legs. They have two little pollen pouches, and they stack those on it. And when they come in, a lot of people will put like a queen excluder, except it's where when they go through it, it actually pulls some of it off. It doesn't take it all off because they need that
Need
feed
that.
bread to feed their babies. So you don't want to take it all from them, but you can get a surplus from them, and then they sell it to these vitamin stores. They buy it. Most people don't realize that the honey that you get that's been microfiltered, they run it through a process and they pull all that pollen out of it, and it changes. It's not as good for you.
Right.
The way that we do our honey, of course, we're not chasing honey, but we are beginning to make some. But we run it through a heat knife which jiggles and cuts the cappings off. but we don't run it through the heat exchanger and heat it up real hot and then cool it back down like most people do. Because when you bottle honey, if you don't do that, then it begins to turn solid pretty quick. And
Right.
stores can't sell it because it looks like it's going bad to the people that don't know. But
Honey
I have-
never goes bad.
no, I've got a couple of people that want to buy it from me for that very reason, because they know it hasn't been heated and they use it for their allergies. They
Well,
want it local.
Yes.
I was going to mention that we buy bulk pint, and we buy a 4-ounce and a pint container and buy cases of them, and we sell them at our stand. I sell them for exactly what I pay for them, because I want to make them available to my customers. And what I tell them is that if they eat locally grown honey, that the pollen in the honey will make them immune, or not necessarily immune, but it'll help with allergies, and especially hay fever. When I started eating local honey after we moved out here, my hay fever went away entirely. And one other thing, my dad used to go to a beekeeper, and he would get he had arthritis in his fingers, and he'd get his knuckles stung by honeybees. He'd pay like a couple of dollars per sting. And he did it for a while. He said it helps a little, but he says it's not worth doing it because of the amount of time it took him.
Right.
But he had rheumatoid arthritis from my childhood up. He had terrible arthritis, and it's kind of been thought, at least my uncles thought, that it was from the Korean War, that he got into something and that created the arthritis type reaction. So, but I don't really know. Now, do honeybees, I've been stung a few times because we used to have to put a tarp over them when they were going to spray the fields. They'd call us and we'd put a tarp over them, and I'd get stung every once in a while, and it's not like getting a wasp or a hornet. But do people get the anaphylactic from the bees like they would from a hornet or a wasp?
Yes, they can. The bee sting is a sting, and the venom's the same. The thing about with bees, so if you're stung on a regular basis, then you have a better chance of never having that issue show up. It's when you go for years without being stung. If you work bees, they put off a venom when they bite into your clothes. They actually will sting your clothes, and you get a certain part of that sting absorbed into your system. And then when you really get popped 2 years later, you can turn into have an event show up because you've already got part of that in your system, and that other half of that dose is what really sends you over the edge. That's why most beekeepers will actually wash their clothes by themselves. Their spouses or children will go anaphylactic on them because of the venom just from hugging their dad coming in from work, getting that chemical from the bee on their body, absorbing it into them. It's amazing. I didn't realize that till a couple of years ago. They were saying how many beekeepers families are affected by that. So I've started being real careful with my clothes and not hugging my grandkids, when I come in from the bee field.
That's incredible. When I was in my early teens, I found a small private dump where people had been throwing their garbage back in the 20s and 30s. And I went down in there. I was actually collecting cans at the time, beer cans and such. You'd find them, and I could sell them to people for a couple of dollars usually if you got, certain ones. And I was down, I got 36 bee stings all at one time up the side of my arm and shoulder. And then the following year, I was helping my father get firewood, and I put a branch on my shoulder to carry it out. and there was a paper wasp's nest right behind it. And we never did count all of those, but I had a reaction. I was tired and kind of sick the next day, but I didn't have any real serious reaction, which I'm very grateful for because I could have died. But since then, I've been stung many times in my job, and I never worry about it because I haven't had a problem. But one of the young men that worked with me one time, he picked up a pop can and swallowed some pop, and there was a bee in it, and it stung him in the throat on the way down. And he went to the hospital. He was fine, but it was bad. It was a bad thing. Are there different types of honeybees, or are all the honeybees pretty much
Well,
same breed?
well, there's Italians and Russians. There's a lot of different bloodlines that are out there now. I'm one of the Russian guys, so I'm 100% Russian bees, and I'm hooked in with LSU with the bee lab. So we send our bees down and have them DNA tested. It's kind of like raising thoroughbred horses or cows, and you want to check the bloodlines. We do that with our bloodlines. As far as they're a little bit different because they did go over to Russia and bring them back. Dr. Render brought them down to LSU and weeded through all the bloodlines, and he kept several strains of it. I don't know, there's 16 or so strains, different lines, and they're our members. I'm responsible for 2 lines, and so are the other members, and we swap every year. We send each other our stock so we don't get into inbreeding. And so,
Never even occurred to me, but wow,
there's a lot to that part of it. I don't care for that part of it. I do to help the bees to be chemical free, and they're the closest thing. The Italians that in '92 we were given the trach mite showed up. We lost. I think I had about 110 hives at that time, and I lost 100 of them that year.
Oh.
It was devastating. So I throwed it all in the barn and said, I'm done. I can't take those kind of losses. And I was never happy. So I got back into it, and I started buying bees and multiplying again. And then the varroa mite showed up. So that took us out some more. So then I've run into Hubert Tubbs, who was a Russian beekeeper. He moved here into this town, and I talked to him and helped him a couple of days, and I seen how easy and nice those bees were, because I'd always heard that Russian bees were really aggressive and mean, and they're not. The purebred ones are very valuable and very calm and easy to get along with. A little bit different than the Italians because of their nature, but they're as chemical free as you can possibly be. We're still having to do a little bit of chemical treatment on them, but I'm down to 1 time a year. And 3 years ago it was devastating. We lost over 50% of our bees, and we're still building back, trying to get back to where we want to be.
Sure.
But
so, do the Italian bees prefer tomatoes and the Russian bees prefer the Russian kale, or?
Well, I don't really know exactly what all the differences are as far as the honey production, because the Italians, they will continue to, the queen will continue to raise baby bees or lay eggs year round. They don't know when to stop. The Russian, when the pollen and the honey or nectar stops coming in, she will shut down.
Ooh.
They're more frugal. It takes less honey to get them through the winter, and then when they do come out on the other side, and that pollen starts coming in, that hive will just explode with bees. So they're slow to start, but when they do, they kick it in pretty hard, aggressive. And as far as honey production, they're good honey producers.
That's interesting. Hey, welcome, Shaky. Glad you found the feed here. We're just playing around on StreamYard so I can figure it out for Saturday. Larry's up here teaching us everything we need to know about bees. I'm going to start keeping them tomorrow. I'll go out to the wood shop, build some hives, and I'll be all set. Are there different kinds of, I saw somebody, they were talking about some different kind of beehive. I'm used to the ones with the supers that stack above it, but are there other designs that people use?
They are. There's several. They're the horizontal hives, and I don't have anything. I've never used one. The bees are designed to work vertical. They're made to live in a tree.
Yeah.
And they need that up and down motion, because when they start at the bottom and work their way up, they actually move up into the heat, into that warmer area. And if you put them in a horizontal hive and they're on the wrong end of the hive, they'll starve because they can't break cluster to go over to the other side to start over. So they got a 50-50 shot of being stranded out in the middle of the hive and honey on each end.
Yeah.
And that scares me now. I have no clue what they do about things like that, but the comb, letting them make their own comb on a popsicle stick, when you take it out to inspect it, if it's hot and you turn it over, then it damages the comb. There's just a lot of things that I could not do and inspect my bees like I have to make sure how they are and what's going on with them. Evaluate the queen.
Yeah. The guy that used to take care of the bees out by us, he'd come out just about every week to check on things. And he had 9 different locations where he had hives. And he just finally burned himself out, I think. And so, but he had built a separator and, he was getting honey, I guess. How long does it take to really establish to get honey?
You can get honey after the first year. If you start with a nuke early in the spring, you can make some honey, especially if you have the summer flows, something like, the Chinese tallow tree. That's what's blooming down here right now. And an established hive that you bring through the winter, if you don't cut them too low when you make your splits out of them, you can go in and take a split and still not damage a population. You need a little over 30,000 bees to start making a crop. And she lays 1,000 eggs a day, so it doesn't 1,000 to 1,500. So it doesn't take long to build up to that once she really gets cranked up.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they won't lay, or she won't lay more bees than they can feed. So the smaller the number, the longer it takes them to build up. So if you've got a lot of nurse bees, then they'll crank out a lot of bees.
Yeah.
But it all hinges on the queen, because she's an egg layer. And if she's not laying but 800 eggs a day, and the spiders and the birds are getting 1,000, it doesn't take you very long till you go to dwindling down and you wind up with hive beetles and wax moths. Wax moths is an indication of something going wrong in the hive. Wax moths just don't take over a colony.
Yeah.
Have the result of a poor queen or a colony that's having health issues.
J&L Ministries is asking, Larry, what about the Easy Flow? I have no idea what that is. Do you know what that is?
I seen a commercial on that yesterday. Johnny, that is a gimmick, in my opinion. Like I say, I've never used one, but the hive is fully put together, and it's got these little crank knobs on it, and it's got these plastic combs in there that you can take your jar out there and put it under a spigot and just crank one of these little cranks open, and it bursts that comb or that cell in half, and it runs out into the jar, and then you crank it back the other way, and it puts it back together to make it back into a cell. I figured that would work for 2 foggy mornings, and then it would be trouble.
You know, there's an awful lot of that out there in the gardens that you see. But there's so much, and I have purchased so many gimmicks and.
Well, you have to take care of your bees. You've got to go into them. You got to make sure what's there, that verify the queen's there and that everything's good. You just can't put them in a box anymore and expect to have, bees that are going to give you a bumper crop of honey. It just doesn't work that way. And if everything lined up perfectly, yeah, that would be a good setup. I couldn't use it because, we can't go around to every hive and waste, a couple of hours cranking these little knobs trying to fill up pint jars. But what people don't understand is these bees normally, when you are in a dearth and you're trying to rob honey from them, the bees smell that honey and every hive around is coming to help you collect that. So it would be mass confusion around that jar unless you're hid under a net of some sort.
I knew a girl in college who had several hives, and they had a separator in the middle of their kitchen. And I went to visit her one day, and boy, the house was there was such a sweet smell. It was almost overpowering. And then, man, the bees around. So, Mama, did you have a question? Oh,
Well, I've done that here. I've extracted in my carport before. And when you break the carport, we
were told that the apple trees, if they're.
We got a question for you from Mama Goose. You want to just ask him? Okay.
We were told if the apple trees were pollinated, the inside of the apple, that's how many seeds.
Oh, she's talking about when the bees pollinate the apple trees, that each time a bee pollinates, there's another seed.
That is a great question and a great statement, because most people don't realize that when you see an apple that's deformed, what's kind of lopsided, it's because it was poor pollination. The whole purpose of the meat of the apple or the watermelon is to hold the seed.
Yeah.
So the pollination is key. That's why you have, farmers willing to pay, for pollination, because they have to, like the watermelon has a male and female flower, they have to cross pollinate with each other. And a honeybee is very good at that. And the number of times that the bloom is visited by a bee to get more pollen in it will determine how many seeds. So if you've got 10,000 seeds and you might have a 70-pound melon, if you only, was visited 10 times, you might have a 20-pound melon. So if you're selling by the pound, it's very profitable to rent bees.
Bees, yeah. I actually would like to cut down on the number of seeds in my watermelons, but the problem is when you grow the seedless watermelons, you just get terrible harvests. I just haven't been able to make that work. So Shaky writes here, when I build my greenhouse, I'm going to use grass cutter bees for pollination. Now, I don't know specifically about grass cutter bees, but I know that mason bees and bumblebees do a pretty good job of pollinating as well. But I don't think that there's any commercial reason why people would have bumblebees or mason bees. And I think that's why the honeybees are the ones that we really kind of know of as being pollinators.
About 10 years ago, we had a salesman come through Mississippi selling bumblebees. They're in little quads, and you just buy it and just go pull the stoppers out. There's no maintenance to them or anything. You just set them up under a tree. And bumblebees are, they're a very good pollinator because of the hum. They actually vibrate the plants and shake more pollen loose. So it is But like you say, nobody's interested in, you can't get honey from a bumblebee, because once they get their little, their honey sac full, they're done. They don't continue to go out and look for more. They have a certain quantity they're looking for.
Sure.
Nest is my understanding. So.
So Homestead Aquarius has a comment for you. He says, Chicken Johnny, would you mind asking Larry if he has heard of Baddest Bees? That's a channel. He's part of the Shed Wars group. I think he has a real unique beekeeping method and point of view about beekeeping that Larry might appreciate. Very organic. So, and then he's got another thing here. He says, lots of flying insects are pollinators. I was amazed in some that I learned about, even red wasps. So Baddest Bees is, I don't know, I don't have a moderator on here. I don't know how to do that on StreamYard, but
I'll check him out. I'll
check him out. We've also got, there's a couple other beekeepers on Shed Wars. So if you go over to the Shed Wars 21 and look at the playlists, you might find several beekeepers there.
Okay.
So if anyone else has any questions, we're going to keep Larry up here as long as we can. But we're probably going to sign off here in a minute if we don't have any more questions. So if you've got a question, go ahead and throw it up in the chat here, and I'll make sure we get it on there.
Okay, you got Joe Serrano's got a question.
So Joe Serrano asks, Chicken Johnny, can you ask Mr. Gandy if hummingbirds are good pollinators?
I don't have any idea. I wouldn't. So
I think they go for the sweet nectar, but I've never heard of them as a pollinator. I do know that there is a moth that looks a great deal like a hummingbird. We get them out here. It's a really large moth. I forget what they're called, but not only are they not good pollinators, you don't want them anywhere near your garden because they'll create problems. Okay, so Homestead Aquarius has put up the link here for Baddest Bees. So if you want to, when I drop you off of here, Larry, you'll just scroll up and take a look at that link. So Mackenzie Lindstrom, welcome to Chicken Johnny's Live. We're talking honeybees and everything you'd ever want to know about honeybees. Larry, before I let you go, and then we are going to bring this to a close, one of the things that I find fascinating when I talk to people who deal with specific animals is, and insects and whatever, is that, and I know your stand on this already, but when you look at the way that honeybees depend upon plants and plants depend upon honeybees, and one could not exist without the other, it makes me wonder how millions and millions and millions of years between plants and life forms like honeybees could even be considered rational thinking. So I think you and I would agree that God made the plants one day, and on the very next, you had honeybees. In fact, I could make the argument not of intelligent design, but of 7 literal days of creation, just based on that kind of thinking alone, is that without the plant, the honeybee doesn't exist. Without the honeybee, the plant doesn't exist. Pretty amazing.
And when you begin to mess with the bees and you realize how magnificent God is in his design of even the nectar sources, he protected the honeybees by, in the spring of the year, you get this nice, clear, clean honey that's really tastes good. And then as you get later in the year over toward goldenrod, and smoke bush, they stink so bad till you really don't want to harvest that honey. It's God's design to protect the bees so that the farmer will take the good fresh honey and give them an opportunity to build back a winter store so that they can live.
That
It is
that
amazing
is
what God.
amazing.
Ask
So-
them about certain plants that are dangerous to bees.
Now, Mama Goose wants to know, are there dangerous plants for bees?
Yellow jasmine is deadly, and it's one of the
Yellow
first things. When we are in our queen rearing process, yellow jasmine blooms, and when they take that pollen and feed it to the baby bees, it kills the queens.
And-
Not the queen itself, but ours that we're trying to raise, the little pupae, will actually die. So, but it's short lived. It's only a couple of weeks of that, but we expect a loss when we see those begin to bloom.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I planted for years, I planted crimson clover as a cover crop thinking I was doing the bees a favor, and turns out they don't eat crimson clover.
Their beaks are not long enough to get down in there to do it any good. So
What's a good cover crop to help the bees?
well, the basic white clover, the ball clover,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good crop. Of course, we have henbit around here.
Henbit is something that we can't plant it, but I'm
It's
familiar with it.
Yes, wild here, and that's two main sources. And of course, any of the flowers that bloom, we'll take them over.
I had alfalfa in my field for a while, and I think the bees came out for the alfalfa. I used to see a lot of bees anyway. I can't.
If there's not a pollen source, they'll be in your wood shop getting in your wood shavings. They're resourceful. They'll use anything they can to survive.
So they'll take the sap from the wood chips.
With that sawdust, they'll get the little dust particles. Feed, if you dump a sack of cow feed out there, they'll wallow around in it and get pieces off of it. And
I know I see bees in the manure all the time. I keep a pretty big pile of horse manure out back for the fall. I put it down in the fall of the year, which reminds me I got to go pick up horse manure this weekend. So if anybody's not doing anything, we're going to be shoveling a lot of it. Mama Goose says she's not going to be a part of that. So actually, we got machinery that'll load it, and the new trailer's got a hydraulic dump. So, and by new trailer, it's a 1972. That's what I mean by new. So, Larry, I appreciate. I'll let you drop off here so that you can get that link.
absolutely, it's good to see you, Johnny. I really appreciate your shows and all, and I appreciate you and what you stand for.
I was very glad to see you here, and man, you really made this a nice live, because it gave us something to profit from and to talk about. Make sure you come out Saturday. We're going to be talking about the law and the New Testament, the Old Testament law and the New Testament Christian. And I won't answer everybody's questions on, I won't answer every question on the issue, but I think I'll build a foundation upon which you can find your own answers. So,
well, I might catch it on the rebound. If
Yep.
it's hours, I'll have a bee suit on, unfortunately.
I hear you.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right, Larry. Yep. Bye-bye. Well, that was a nice surprise there, to have Larry come up and talk. So he made it a really nice live stream, and Vineyard Chicks are saying thank you for educating us. I'm sure that goes to Larry and from all of us. Mackenzie Lindstrom also says thank you for sharing the information, Mr. Gandy. And I'm going to throw J&L Ministries up here too. He says blessings to you, brother Larry. So I'm going to say goodnight. I appreciate you all coming out, and I'd really encourage you, if you are interested at all in biblical things, to check out J&L's Ministries, his site, and he's a pastor. He spoke at Godfest as well as I did, and check out his site. Will It Grow is here. Oh, you were Gail Lurkin. I thought, man, I'm looking for Will It Grow because I'm going to bring him up, but well, next time, John. So I think we'll close with a little bit of a song. No, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to be singing a song in an upcoming video, a ballad to John from Will It Grow. So that's coming up. All right. Once again, thank you, Larry. Yimitzer Shem, we'll see you again. I'm Chicken Johnny. Eat your vegetables and have a wonderful night. And how do I turn this off?